Hello everyone, this is Johnny and welcome back. So today is July 8th and we're really in the peak propagating season for two types of Japanese maple propagation. The first one is growing Japanese maples from cuttings, and here is an actual amber ghost that I propagated from a cutting just a few years ago. And I'll do some close-ups of this tree, but it's a beautiful, healthy tree. And a lot of people try to say that you can't successfully grow Japanese maple trees via cuttings and that grafting is the only way. But here's an example proving that wrong, that yes, you can actually grow Japanese maples from cuttings. Now, I did create a propagation guide, and you may have seen a community post where I put that out. And that propagation guide takes you through the steps of how to grow Japanese maples or how to root Japanese maple cuttings. And I have some videos on that as well, but this propagation guide really kind of distills it all into one, and I'll talk more about that later. But growing Japanese maples via cuttings, rooting cuttings, is a valid way to propagate Japanese maples. And I've had some success with the methods that I teach you in that propagation guide and the methods I teach you in videos. There are some varieties, some cultivars of Japanese maples that don't root very well. And part of the process is just figuring out which ones do and which ones don't. This particular variety, Amber Ghost, seems to root pretty easily. And I believe this is a good one, and maybe all the Ghost series, but specifically Amber Ghost is one I've had experience with. This roots very, very well. And shortly I will show you what you're looking for and why this is the proper season for doing cuttings. But in addition to doing cuttings, this is also peak season for summer grafting. So on this side is another Amber Ghost, Japanese maple tree. And this one was one that I grafted probably 2 years ago, based on what it looks like here, how this is healing up. And I'll do some close-ups once again. And it's actually time for me to repot this. I can see that this one actually needs to be repotted, so I'll probably do that shortly. But grafting is also another valid way. One of the main ways that Japanese maples are propagated, and right now is this season. But let me go over to the large Amber Ghost tree that I have in my collection, and I'll show you why this really is a peak season for cuttings and grafting and what you're looking for. Okay, so I have a larger Amber Ghost here that's in a 20 to 25 gallon pot. And you can see, of course, the reticulated veining on this. It's very beautiful. And of course, in the spring, you get an amber color to the leaves. And then even this time of year, when it does get some direct sun, and this gets a couple of hours of direct sun per day, you can see the beautiful kind of ambery yellow-orange colors that come out in the leaves. And they're kind of crinkly on the margins there. Of course, you got the reticulation, and this is just a beautiful variety of Japanese maple. Now, the reason why you want to take cuttings and try to root cuttings in this time of the year, kind of the last weeks of June into July, is because you're looking for this year's growth that is beginning to harden off. That's the wood you're going to have the best success with when it comes to rooting. Now, I see a branch up here, and sorry that the light's not ideal at this point of the day, but I can see this branch right here. And this branch has this year's growth here, here, and right here. And then you can see last year's growth right here. You can see the difference in the wood. This is this year's growth, but it's actually pretty stiff and woody. It's not brand new growth in the sense of it's only been there for a few weeks, but it's actually pretty woody. This is an ideal piece. This is a pretty ideal piece. And this is a pretty ideal piece for rooting. This would probably have very high success based on my past experience. So what I would do, for example, is I would clip this just below this leaf node here and take off all but like one or two of the top leaves, put rooting hormone in that, and then place that down into one of my propagation boxes, which I've shown you in past videos. And then I would keep that misted 2 to 3 times a day and keep that box in a spot that doesn't get direct sunlight but is not completely dark. And then after around 3 months or so, if you do the process properly, chances are you'll have a number of those cuttings have roots. And I've proven that process works. And of course, that Amber Ghost example that I showed you just a short while ago shows that you can grow healthy Japanese maples via cuttings. Now, when it comes to grafting, one of the big reasons why this is peak season comes down not only to the scion wood being at a good spot, but more importantly, it comes down to the rootstock actually being at a good spot for healing over and actually taking. So this is one of the reasons why this is the season when grafting is often done, summer grafting. Now, a lot of nurseries will do winter grafting, and the propagation guide that I'm going to discuss at the end of this video does have instructions for that. But of course, we're here in the summer, so I'm talking about summer grafting right at the moment. You can take some of that same wood that I just pointed out for cuttings, and you could use that for scion wood. But you can also use a little bit older wood, not really, really old wood, but like say last year's growth wood for scions would work just fine, or newer growth this year that has begun to harden off, that will also work really well. But let me actually move over to some rootstock examples, some trees that I could use for rootstock, and let me see if I can actually find some new white roots to really kind of indicate that this is the right time to graft. Okay, here's a great little example. This is ever so slightly smaller than I would normally want for grafting, but I have had some success grafting with thinner diameters here. But you can see that this is beginning to be the size when you could start grafting, and you could actually put the scion in right there, kind of low, below that first kind of leaf node area here. You definitely want to be below that, and you could graft into that. The propagation guide does have instructions for that. But one of the keys you're looking for summer grafting, and this is going to give you good success, is you want to look for new root growth. And one of the reasons why I really like these band pots, not only because of the size, you can fit a lot of them in a tray. They're like 6 inches tall and a little bit under 4 inches square from side to side here. But I love that they have really good drainage and they allow you to see the roots. So right here at the bottom, you get over here, you can see right there where my pinky is, you can see that brand new growth. If I were to slide this out, I would see more of that kind of that newer growth right there. And this time of the year, as long as you're keeping your maple trees happy and watered, you should have a good amount of new root growth. So that tells me when I see this new root growth like this, and if once again, if I were to slide this out, you would see some white growth. I will put a picture up from the propagation guide showing a little bit more of that, a close-up of that. But that tells you that you're in a good time for summer grafting. Here's a Mikazuki variety that I grafted onto a pretty small rootstock. This one seems to be doing pretty well. It's got reticulation. It's really a beautiful variety. And you can see there where that graft happened. Graft happened right there, side veneer graft. You can see where the tree, the rootstock was growing up there, and that's dying back. And that's mostly died back. I will trim that back as that continues to turn white and dies back. Looks like it may be ready to cut back, but I'm just giving it a little more time. But this was actually grafted when this tree was, the rootstock was a pretty small diameter, probably very similar to that size I just showed you. So you can get away with grafting onto smaller diameter rootstock. And this is just one example proving that it's also the case. Ideally, you probably want your rootstock to be a little thicker, but you can use thinner Acer palmatum rootstock. Here's another variety called Acer palmatum samarzam, and that's a non-trademarked name for a trademarked version, which is samurai sword. So it's also called samurai sword. This variety is not patented, but it does have a trademarked name. So you can sell it under samarzam, but you can't sell it under samurai sword. Nonetheless, this is one I also grafted, it looks like at least 2 years ago. And you can see where that's died back. You can see where that side veneer graft went in. And the tree overall looks to be pretty healthy. It's got a little bit of scorching from the sun. You know, of course, Japanese maples often get that because they need to be protected from sun. So we got just a little bit there, but overall the tree looks like it's pretty happy. Here's another one that I grafted, Acer palmatum butterfly. And the Acer palmatum butterfly is one of my favorite variegated varieties. Of course, the white in the spring is kind of pinkish, light pink. It's beautiful, and even here in the summer, quite lovely. I have the mother plant right here, and while I do have some scorching of the leaves, this gets a decent amount of direct sun for several hours a day. Overall, this tree actually does good for most of the year, and still looks very pretty most of the year. Once again, it does get a little bit of crisping of the edges, but although this looks very dainty, when you look in here, it looks like a very dainty tree. It actually does better than you'd think in direct sun. But nonetheless, this particular one is one that I grafted as well. And you can see another side veneer graft there, the rootstock, and this will eventually die back a little further. And this will be something that as this heals, this graft union will become less and less noticeable, and this tree will kind of heal up around that. But the side veneer method, which is one that I teach in the propagation guide, is something that is very standard for Japanese maples. Now, of course, if you've been watching this channel for any period of time, you know that I really love to grow Japanese maple trees from seed as well. And I've also had success with air layering in the past. And in the propagation guide, I also teach those two methods and how to do an air layer of a Japanese maple tree to root a branch that's still connected to the tree, and also the easiest way to start Japanese maple trees from seed. So that's also in that propagation guide. The propagation guide really kind of distills everything I've learned about propagating Japanese maples, and it's in a concise, easy to read, easy to follow format with close-up pictures, step-by-step instructions. And I actually have a link down below in the video description where you can purchase that propagation guide. It's a digital PDF, downloadable PDF book. It's not a physical book yet. Maybe in the future it will be, but for now it's in digital format, so you can purchase that, instantly download it, and follow along with the step-by-step instructions for actually propagating your own Japanese maples. Well, thank you so much for following along with me in this video. I hope you have good propagation success, and please check out the propagation guide link that I have down below. Until next time, thanks for watching.